I'm Nadine Matheson, host of The Conversation, and I know you're keen to get on with the show and watch my conversation. But before we do, I have one small request. Can you please hit the subscribe button? You might already have done so, but if you haven't, hit the subscribe button now. Takes a second. Less than a second. Right, thank you very much, and let's get on with the show. Juhea Kim, welcome to The Conversation.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I feel like I need to be fully transparent that Juhea and I were having a very intense chat before we officially started recording about publishing. So I'm going to go straight in and ask you, how would you describe your publishing journey, Juhea?
Rags to riches. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. Everybody roots for the person who goes from rags to riches, and
Hmm.
I was a real underdog. And it's an underdog makes good kind of story, but with a lot of heartache and
Yeah.
in between. So I think first thing you need to remember is that I'm an immigrant. I was born in Korea and I moved to the US at the age of 9, and I grew up there, went to university there, and first started working in publishing in New York. And that informed a lot of my early journey because I found myself spinning wheels a lot.
Mm.
I graduated during the Great Recession, so in 2009, and it was really hard for me to get my first job, first of all. I started at a very low pay,
Yeah.
and even though I prided myself on my academic accomplishments and my work ethic and my integrity, and I was truly, truly passionate about work and especially about books, I ran into a lot of roadblocks along the way with people discouraging me and basically telling me that I was good for nothing except to be an assistant forever. This is something that
Why?
this is something that people were telling me to my face.
Why were they saying that? That's just
Um,
crazy.
a lot a lot of it has to do with racism, a lot of it has to
Mm.
do with misogyny and sexism.
Yeah.
Um, there were about 12 of us in the cohort, a class of editorial assistants that all begin around the same time, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And there were about 10 girls and exactly 2 boys. And I don't need to tell you which 2 people were promoted to assistant editor.
I could never guess.
It was amazing to me because these were boys that I needed to train. And I was still training them when one of them was promoted to assistant editor and then another. And, um, I'm very sorry to say racism was a big part of it. And I think some level of transparency is important because um, I'm no longer afraid of being blackballed if I speak out about issues like
Yeah.
this. And the more we raise these, then I think there's a better chance of these things eventually becoming a thing of the past. But I was called an Oriental to my face. I was told, we hired you because Asians work hard and they don't raise questions. Like, why are you rebelling? Because we picked you because we didn't think that you'd be
They
like this.
thought you'd be quiet, just sit in the corner, do your
Docile,
job, do what you're told, and
right?
yeah, be
Absolutely.
docile.
And I was being told this to my face, like, we thought you'd be obedient because you're an Oriental, and so on and so forth. So, you
Anyway.
it's really bad. It's really bad. So I quit my publishing job,
Mm,
and there's a
that's
siren.
okay. Yeah, it's fine.
I quit my job and I decided I want to write on my own. Like, I want to be an author rather than an editor.
Yeah.
And as you might imagine, this was a very foolhardy wish because most of the people who set out to become authors do not make it. Most manuscripts are never published.
Mm,
But I figured the only thing I can do in this situation is try to write. So I started writing. I gained a literary agent, and while all of this is going on, and then I started writing fiction in earnest. But while all this was going on, I was extremely poor. And there was a huge gap of unemployment where I was freelancing, but freelancing makes almost no money. So I was living off of the paltry savings that I had made from my editorial assistant job and rapidly running out of resources. And there were times when I really feared being homeless, when I really couldn't afford to buy food. And I still remember to this day um, going to different grocery stores to try to buy the cheapest can of beans because some of them were $1.09 and some
Yeah.
of them were 99 cents, and I had to get the cheapest beans that were under $1 and walking out of my way. And I had a cat, and I would always prioritize, of course, buying his food over my own. And so this was the point at which I started writing my first book. And then after some time, I got another full time job as an editor. So I was working full time and writing fiction at nights and early mornings and on weekends.
Mm.
And that eventually was sold and published as Beasts of a Little Land. Now, because I was so poor and desperate when I began writing this book, I also could not have realized at the time how much this book would give me back. What I have realized basically is that the more you give desperately to your art will reward you. And my books, each of my books are a testament to that fact. So, Beast of a Little Land is an international bestseller. It has won accolades. I still travel all over the
Yeah.
world talking about it. It was a BBC World Book Club pick, um, won major awards. So, um, and from that point on, because your first book did the heavy lifting, selling my subsequent books were progressively so much easier. And then they build on something that I worked on before and so on. But yeah, this is basically my journey in a nutshell.
I feel very stressed because I'm like, how, obviously you've got this amazing career now as a writer, but in those moments, I don't know how you keep going when someone's insulting you to your face and telling you all the things that they expect of you, which is obviously less than what you think of yourself.
Do you know, it
It's
is so true on so many
oh,
levels. I've had this happen so many times. This is why I speak out about it in case you have
mm,
listeners and subscribers on YouTube who are also aspiring artists and running into these roadblocks that society just imposes on you. And you think you deserve more. And you
yeah.
don't think of yourself as your race or your ethnicity or your immigration background. You are a whole person. And other people are not acknowledging your human dignity. Now, this is what I am saying to you. You need to respect and protect yourself and fight for what's right. Fight for what's right. Don't give in and don't let them beat you down. Do not work for people who don't respect you, who crush your soul. These people will never pull you up. I say this to every
No.
university that I speak at because as a young person, as a young child of immigrants, I thought I need to keep my head down and work my way up, and somebody will acknowledge me and pull me up. Most of the time, unfortunately, a lot of people are not like this. There have been just very few bosses who actually believed in me, gave me opportunities, and I remain friends with these people.
Yeah.
But out of all of my work experience, these were very, very few, and most of the time it was the opposite, where they really tried to kill your spirit.
I had that word in my head. They are literally trying to kill your spirit. And you hear so many stories of people, no matter what, in whatever profession they're in, where they just may be their dream from childhood, and whether a teacher has said to them, well, because you're from this sort of family, this is your economic class, or this is your ethnicity, you don't do that. Like black people don't do that, or Chinese people can you don't do that, and it stifles you, and you keep yourself small because someone else said you need to be in this particular box and in this category.
Mhm. Absolutely. You see this in every country. Unfortunately, this also happens in the UK. I speak to
Yeah.
others. I know that my experience is not unique, sadly. But I think I have the kind of disposition where if someone tries to oppress me, I fight back. I'm
Mm.
definitely not intimidated by bullies. So, if anything, you know, this just goes to show how far I have come. I have arrived at a point in my life where I'm actually thanking these bullies for stimulating me.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Because if I had remained contented at Penguin Random House, which is a big, publishing house,
yes, it's massive.
I've worked for a very prestigious publisher, Alfred A. Knopf, which is like a very high-end imprint, even at Penguin Random House. If I had gone through the right promotions and acknowledged for my talent and hard work, I would be an editor, not an author. And I think that actually, for me, it's much better being the creator. So it all worked out.
I'm so glad. Honestly, I'm so glad it worked out. I'm so glad I'm sitting there talking to you because yesterday it's just funny. You could say it's serendipity, but yesterday I there was a episode of my podcast released, and I was talking to an author, Nicole Rice, who writes under a pseudonym. RL RL Kilmore is her pseudonym, and she was saying how when she was in college, and this is in the States, she was in college, and the creative writing professor said to her, "You can't write,"
Mm,
and I just thought, imagine you're in college, you're doing your creative writing course, and your professor saying to you that I don't think you're not gonna write.
wow.
And I said, can you imagine if you had taken that on?
Hmm.
Because sometimes we look at someone and think, oh, because they're more experienced, because they have a title
Hmm.
and they're teaching me everything, it has to be correct. If they're telling me that I can't do this thing, then of course, because of their status, they have to be correct. And
Right.
it's not true. And imagine if she took that on, like actually took that on, then she wouldn't be doing what she's doing.
Absolutely. Now, is it true that there is a difference in talent, difference in ability? It's
Yeah.
not everybody is like Shakespeare, right? Um,
Mm,
it just that's not how reality works. However, the reason this story is especially shocking is a teacher should never say that to a student
no.
because what you can do is look at this from the perspective of the student and what they are trying to achieve. And if you judge a work by what the person is trying to achieve, not what you want them to do, there's always something good you can say about it. There's always some positive assessment you can say about it and constructive criticism in order for you to help them achieve their goals.
Yeah.
And this teacher did not do that, which is really unethical for a teacher. Does
It
that
irks
make sense?
it irks me so much because I teach. And I always call them the baby lawyers, but I teach the law students and the baby lawyers are training them how to how to do advocacy and court. And I always say like my job is not to tell you you're bad or you're terrible. There's some when I meet them on the first day if I'm doing an advocacy course. There's some on the first day I can tell there's some who are they're natural advocates. You just know they've been able to do it. It's just a matter of enhancing their skills. And there are some, they have it, but they're just scared. Whatever story they've told themselves, they're just scared. So it's my job to find the bit in you that I think works and build in it and help you recognize it and give you the skills to improve, not to tell you on day one, you know what, you're never going to be a good advocate in court. You might as well just forget it. I couldn't in good conscience because I see them. I couldn't in good conscience do that.
Absolutely. And a lot of these critics, it really says more about them than about you, your potential,
Hmm.
your ability, because it reflects their bitterness and their sense of inability. So if you talk to somebody who actually has a lot of talent and success, they'll be very encouraging, more likely
Yeah.
than not.
It's always, I always find it fascinating. I think it's just more obvious now in this digital world we live in when you see people who fell upwards and you're like,
That's how
how?
I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like how, and they're telling you that, oh, you can't do it. And I'm like, well, you really should not be doing it.
exactly.
I always ask, I always like to ask, when did you know that you were a storyteller? Because it's like you were saying, you can have a talent to write,
Mm,
but that may not necessarily translate into a talent into telling a story
right.
in whichever medium you choose. So when did you know that you were a storyteller?
It's so interesting you mentioned the difference of mediums because
Mm,
the first time I realized that I have a potential as a storyteller was through dance, not
Yeah, the
necessarily
ballet.
through prose. And it makes a lot of sense because I wrote a ballet novel for my second book, City of Night.
Yeah.
But in university, one of the best courses that I took was Intro to Modern Dance. So I had been dancing ballet since I was a child. And this was my first exposure to modern dance and choreography. And the final project for this course was to create a solo on you and perform it in front of an audience. And I remember the thrill that I felt while making this short, a choreographed dance for myself. And when I performed it, there was a part of the dance that I knew had to really give goosebumps to the audience.
Mm,
That's the effect that I wanted. I wanted to and surprise and thrill them and give them shivers. And when it came to that point of the dance, I could hear the gasps in the audience.
that's
And
what you want.
that was what I wanted. Because the dance was about, it was a darker material. I was going through, early 20s, heartbreak and lost
Everything.
love and all the drama. And, it was meant to be tragic and shocking, and
Yeah.
they completely got it. And I understood that I have a storytelling capability and instinct and drive. It's a real sort of need to create something and tell a story and make
Mm.
yourself understood. And for me now, that expresses itself primarily through prose. Um, but it's something that actually happens to me organically all sorts of ways because I also do painting. I also continue to dance. Um, I write all kinds of things, not just fiction. First of all, I write novels and short stories, but also through my creative nonfiction, my essays, and journalism, all of which are tools with which I express myself.
Yeah. I always think that it's always important to find like an extension of yourself that you shouldn't just be confined to like the thing you're known for. So I always say to the baby lawyers, like if I'm doing the course with them, like a 3-day course, and at the end of it, I'll always say, find something outside of this.
Mhm,
Like, don't let this being a lawyer be this is just entirely who you are. I'm like, if you like to bake, bake. If you like to climb mountains, climb out, but make sure you have something else to hold on to.
mhm.
Because otherwise you need to feel find a way to feel whole, I believe.
Absolutely. Because you're a whole person, and
Mm,
um, what you're able to put back into the book is greater if you um, try to encourage your humanity the best way you can. For me, most of the time, this really, I don't know if this is going to sound cool, but this really does come down to, are you a good human being? It comes
yeah.
down to, am I a mature human being? Do I have empathy? Am I compassionate? Am I growing? Am I deepening as a soul? And if my soul is undergoing all of these things, that adds to my art. That's the
Mm,
most important part of craft, actually, because people think writing is about craft. It's about, plot diagrams or character development or, how to describe your environment. And all those things are very important and very concrete. But to me, as a practicing artist, um, you're either going to have the soul that you're able to put into your art or you're not. And when I
yeah.
look at a book, here's my book, upcoming book, A Love Story from the End of the World. When I read someone's book, I can tell whether or not this person gave their soul to the book. And if
It's
they
weird.
didn't, then I'm frustrated. I don't want to read it. It's not worth it for me.
It's weird. It's only in the last maybe the last year that I've been reading books and I think and I'm being able I don't know for some reason I can see I'm like I feel like the intention behind this book wasn't to entertain me, the reader or anyone else out there.
Mm.
It just felt like the intention was kind of inauthentic.
Mm,
Like it was just fulfilling a this is a stepping stone for me to get to
mm,
X, whether it's to get a it probably some people might just think it just sounds weird, but that's how I'm reading. I'm like, you just wrote this just to get a TV deal.
Mhm.
Like, I don't feel like you wrote
Exactly.
this for me, the reader, talking as a whole, as the reader.
Right. It's transparent. I mean, Nadine,
Yeah.
you can see it. I can see it. I think you can pretty much tell what their intentions are. And
Hmm.
if a book's intention is to get a TV or a movie deal, then it's not an artwork. It's not a work of art. It's a commercial product. It's just something that they turn out to fit into this capitalist system. And, you know, that doesn't fall into the category of literature. Sadly, we live in
Yeah.
a world where the distinction between art and commerce is just ever so um, fading away.
Mm.
And a lot of books that are out there that are being called literary fiction, unfortunately, don't have that soulfulness that I think is really essential to art. But
Mm.
it's also good practice not to casually criticize fellow writers' works. And that's why I will not.
No, we're not going to do that. But then saying that, I do think it's important for writers, especially new writers, to recognize early on and accept early on that what you're entering into. Yes, you have your art and you're passionate about your craft and you want to write these books. Like my intention is always, when you're talking about that shiver, that's what the reaction you wanted from the audience when they saw you dance. Is like, I want my readers, when they get to scenes, I want them to have the shiver, like, oh my god, and start looking over their shoulder when they're at home. That is always my intention. So it's always important for writers to, be honest and authentic in what you're doing, but also recognize early on that this is a business, and kind of take away the rose-colored glasses away from it. Because
Yeah.
otherwise you will get disappointed during the process when the reality of the publishing world hits you with full force.
Um, so as you could understand from what I described as my
Mm,
craft and my artistic process of pouring my soul, I'm a huge idealist when it comes to the
yeah,
creative side of it. I don't write for money. However, once that's written and done, I also think that I should be financially compensated um,
absolutely.
in a reasonable manner. This is also important because it's blood money. As I keep explaining to my foreign rights manager and my agent, I'm like,
It's like what we were talking about before we recorded.
listen, here's the thing: your talent and your artistry are not infinitely renewable resources. Newsflash, it's not infinitely renewable resources. It's just like water. People tend to think that there's water everywhere. It continues to regenerate. No, we actually have a finite amount of water on Earth that we cannot get back if we waste all of it. Same thing with your artistry and creativity. I only have so many books within me. And the way it costs me physically and spiritually, it's like giving blood for money. The poorest of
Yeah,
the poor around the world, if they can't feed their families, they go and sell their blood to buy bread. It still happens, as shocking as that is. So for me, um, writing books for money is like selling my blood or selling a kidney. Like if I sell all of it, if I sell all my blood, I will die. If I sell
there's
more than
nothing left.
a kidney, I will die. So it's very important that when I write a book that costs me so much, my lifespan, that it comes back to me in the form of livelihood. And the reality of publishing world is because you're so self-sacrificing and you're an artist, you assume that the financial people, the business people will do their jobs and will have your best interests at heart. But that's actually quite naive.
Hmm.
They have their best interests at heart,
Yeah,
and their interests are not aligned with your interests. Their interests are aligned with the publisher's interests, the agency's interests, and so on and so forth. So you do have to speak up. You have to look at your royalty statements. I mean, this is getting into
no,
the
you do. Even listen, even if your royalty statements, like I've had royalty statements, and they've just said zero at the end of it, and I'm like, okay, I wasn't expecting a royalty state getting money, but I still go through it because I need to understand how it works and how they are portioning. Because it's not as if your books aren't selling; your books are selling, but
right.
it's how they're portioning the money and how you end up at zero. So there's load that I could probably throw a ball and hit an author. who's had a royalty statement with zero on it. But that's what I say. It's important for you. You know, you love your craft, you love what you do, and there's a reason why we say you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it, because there are times it literally does feel like blood, sweat, and tears. You're so
Absolutely.
exhausted at the end of writing your book, just want to hide away for
Mm,
like a year, but you go back and do it again. But also, you need to have some kind of a business hat on, because
yeah,
everyone's got different intentions in this business.
completely.
You was talking about when you was working, and you spoke about it earlier, finding the time to write. And
Mhm.
I always describe it as you're just basically stealing time. So it is the mornings, the evenings, the weekends, the time traveling on a bus. And you said that you said this bit about how your diary was written in 10-minute schedules.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just immediately I had flashbacks to when I was working in a city law firm, and your billable hours, we had to bill in 6 minutes. So every 6 minutes I had to account for.
Oh my
And I
God.
used to hate it because I'm focusing on the 6 minutes and not actually the work. So I
That's
was like,
inhuman.
yeah. So this was my question. It's like, what does that do to your psyche when you're thinking, I'm trying to find the time to write, so I have to think in 10-minute slots throughout,
Yeah,
well, throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the
yeah.
year.
So, I actually became very ill because it was
Mm,
so stressful. Like I had physical
yeah.
symptoms. And no matter how hardworking you are, and I always prided myself on my work ethic, that's unsustainable. And I was
No,
living like that
exactly.
for about 3 years, and um, trying to squeeze out my fiction. So
Yeah.
here's a couple of things. Is it possible to squeeze out fiction in that manner, like really just controlling your every like ability, your time? Yeah, it is possible because I did write my
Mm,
first book in this fashion. But uh, it probably made it also not as pleasant and a lot slower because I had to go back and rewrite a lot of things that I was writing on my iPhone on my commute. That's not going to be great. I mean, it will get you somewhere from point A to point
yeah.
B, and the pages will accumulate. But you know, the things that I wrote under that amount of duress, not my best writing, but it had to be done because that was the life stage that I was in at the time.
Mm,
But my subsequent books, I was able to write in much more pleasant circumstances. And that was such a different experience for me. It was an ecstatic experience for me, aesthetically, because I could only just focus on my writing and my love of art and not have to think, oh my God, I have to run and do this and I have to shower and go to work and all of that stuff.
yeah. Did you find it an adjustment though? Because I remember doing the whole. I mean, and the thing is, I've spoken to authors and I've done events with authors, and they said, I just wrote my book on my phone by using the notes app, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think I can write my whole book on my notes app. I could do like a scene, like
Yeah,
an
yeah,
exchange of dialogue. If it pops into my head and it's a convenient moment to do that, but I couldn't do my whole book on there. That just wouldn't work for me. And now the question I was even going to ask you, oh yeah, that's it. It went out my head and then it came back. But then I found it an adjustment, not necessarily going from like working full time, doing my other job and writing, and then having time to write. But because I did a course initially, and I wrote my first book within, I'll say the constraints of doing this course. So someone was saying to me, we need this many words by this day, and here's your tutor on this day. So I always had like a manager in a sense with me. And then I had the struggle when I was doing it outside of that. And I had to write the second book. And I'm like, no one's asking me for 20,000 words today. Like,
yeah,
no one's saying, like, here's a meeting to just see how you're going or a workshop.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think my question is, did you find the transition from having all that control to having all that freedom easy? Or was it still a bit initially a
It
struggle?
was easy. It was, I mean, you go from having such material discomforts and physical and spiritual duress to being your own boss
Yeah.
and having control of your own schedule. Yeah, it was really easy and really nice. And I had this really blissful period where I was a little less well known and writing my second book and having more time because I was no longer working for someone.
Mm,
And just being able to write more freely. And that was a really healthy balance of work and life. Now, especially this past couple of years, 2024 and 2025, I've just been doing a crazy amount of publicity. And
yeah.
at the same time having output as well, so smaller pieces as well as the current novel that I'm writing, and the fact that I just published two books 1 year apart. So my last book, City of Nightbirds, came out in the US in November 2024, and my next book is coming out in the US and UK simultaneous publication, also November 2025.
Mm,
So, as you well know, with that comes a lot of editorial responsibilities of reviewing and reviewing all of the different editions. So,
yeah.
that transition was harder, going from a full-time author who had a reasonable work-life balance to someone. For me, I actually think that these past couple years I've been doing the work of three or four authors, because I also have a lot of work in the international markets that my US and UK publishers might not know. So they all treat me as their full-time author.
That's
And
the thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's been a little bit discombobulating, but such is life.
I know, and it sounds like, when people say like first world problems, but actually like listening to you and thinking about it, I think that is the bigger transition. It's not necessarily the moving from, I was doing a full-time job doing X and now I'm just writing full-time. It's when, and you have that sweet spot when you can just be focusing on your writing. It's when you move into the next stage, which no one ever prepares you for. No one, which is you're writing a book, but also the time you're writing a book, you're promoting a book. And promoting's not just, pop onto a podcast like once in a while. It's you got to go out and do events. And if you got foreign editions, you're doing stuff for each of those publishers. So I remember doing stuff for my German publishers, my US publishers, and my UK publishers, whilst writing the second book and also having to promote the first book by doing events.
Yeah.
And no one prepares you for that cycle. So I think by the end of definitely 2024, I was like, I am tired. I am tired. I am tired. I don't want to do anything because I remember I was just exhausted.
Absolutely. I am definitely feeling that way. And as much as I enjoy publicity and meeting readers or teaching university students, these are all enjoyable activities.
Mm,
I love the best the time that I spend with my work, just writing at home. That's
yeah.
my favorite and happiest time. So I'm looking forward to being able to do that with less pressure to travel and to appear publicly.
Yeah.
So
This year. I
my
mean, this year. So gone.
my question to you, do you when you work from home, do you dress very comfortably, like in pajamas?
You can't see the bottom half of me right now.
My great joy in life is being able to work from home in my pajamas. And so that's why public appearances, as glamorous as they may seem, they're the secret chagrin of my existence, because nothing makes me happier than loose pants. Loose pants.
I say I'm in my tracksuit bottoms. I have my Snoopy top on for those who are listening. I'm in my sweatshirt. Normally, my writing uniform is I'm just in leggings and a hoodie, and like that's how I want to be. And when I have to now leave to do an event, I'm like, okay, now I need to get dressed. Now I need to find clothes. Now I need to do all this stuff. And I think also as well, when I was practicing law, I was always in a suit. I was always in heels, always in a dress, always in black because I'm always in court. And in court, you have to be wearing somber colors.
Oh,
So I was either in black or charcoal grey or navy was as bright as I got.
ooh,
so,
yeah.
so I remember one day I opened my wardrobe and I'm like, my whole wardrobe is black. It was just depressing. So
Yeah.
like I went the other way. Like, yeah. So yeah. I just want to be and I understand the pajamas. So Juhei, I wanted to ask you, like, what does success mean for you? Because obviously you've had all this amazing international success. And then your second book was picked for Reese's book club. And then you got your third book coming out. And I'm going to ask you about your third book. But what does success mean for you?
You know, the definition of success is always evolving. So I think
Mm.
for me, early on, my definition of success is to sell my first book and sell 5,000 copies of it. And I would have traded everything for that opportunity. It's something that I desperately wanted. And I actually passed that milestone ages ago. And, another thing too about success is that it continues to mean less than the earlier markers, meaning
Yeah.
I think the most important wins for me came early on. Um, Early on, when I was first accepted to university, that the happiness that I experienced then was so much greater. And then the second time was when my literary agent agreed to represent me. That was the second highest peak.
That's
And then
such a moment, isn't it?
I sold my first book. And then the later peaks are probably more significant in the eyes of the world, but they feel less to me.
Yeah.
The earlier ones were more fundamentally important. So, what does success mean to me? I think that success in literary publishing is so elusive because you have to be extremely talented and you have to be extremely hardworking. But those two things alone are not going to guarantee success. You
Mm.
also have to be tremendously lucky. And if you have all those things, if you work harder than anyone else and you have rare talent, not just sort of above average good writing skills, but rare talent, and you're tremendously lucky, then you're looking at some level of success. But even then, as I mentioned, success is a moving target that continues to reap less spiritual joy,
Yeah.
less lasting spiritual joy. So I think it's very important not to make success your goal or to not think too much about success. I have stopped setting personal goals for myself because I used to be very gung ho on 5 year goals, 1 year goal, 5 year goals. I used to set them, I used to accomplish them on the dot because I was, again, a child of immigrants. I had this super pressure to accomplish things. Now I only set um, long term goals in 30-year increments. So I set a 30-year goal, but not for my success, but for the causes that I am contributing to. So I'm thinking specifically of the 30-year plan that I made for tiger and leopard conservation, which I have been contributing to
Mm.
since 2021. After several years working together, I know what I can do for them in 30 years. So that's the 30-year plan that I created most recently. I don't think in terms of what can I do for me. For myself, I think it's very important that I think of myself as just an instrument.
Yeah.
I'm Catholic, and one of the things that we pray for is for you to be an instrument of peace. For me, this makes a lot of sense. Like, I want me to be an instrument that makes the world a better place and not for me to become a goal in myself.
Yeah. You know, when you said you're Catholic, because I'm Catholic, and I always just think it always amuses me how you cannot go to church for ages, but
Yeah.
as soon as you go, it's muscle memory.
Oh,
You know when to kneel down, you know when to stand up, you know when to give thanks, you know when to turn around and shake. It's so ingrained in you.
so you know exactly what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
When I say we pray to make us an instrument of your peace,
Hmm.
to it not make this about me, but if I achieve some level of recognition and respect in the world, and also financially I have something to give, then what can I do? How can I use that to give back? So
Yeah.
uh, so these things continue to present themselves to me the more I grow. So for example, like one of the meetings that I'm really looking forward to this week is with a BBC World News producer interested in like a tiger documentary concept, and she knows me through BBC World Book Club. And because like I'm always talking about tigers and conservation, she thinking, well, maybe this has a potential to be a BBC documentary, and so on. So that came about directly as a result of my fiction and advocacy work, which is exactly how I wanted my career to go. So I guess I said success is elusive, don't think about it, but success to me is also my advocacy impact.
Yeah.
How impactful am I as an advocate? And if that continues to grow, then I am satisfied with the direction my career is
Yeah.
going.
I think it's always a good thing to define what success means for you individually and not in the wider scheme of because you're looking at what author B's doing and you want to emulate what they're doing. Just look at what you
Oh,
want. Look at your look at what you want look at what you want personally for yourself and think about what drives you. And again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about the whole of you and not just this one small part of you.
so my author friends and I have this conversation time and time again because we are each other's greatest supporters and friends and
Mm-hmm.
peers, and at the same time, unfortunately, we're competitors
Yeah.
on some level. You can think of it as we're all competing in the same award cycle, for example, or um, like it's so easy to see how this book that just came out a month before your book is doing so well. It's on the bestseller list. It's in so many ways we compare each other,
Yeah.
but um, you have to ask yourself, is is their book the book that you want to be writing? Which in almost 100% of the time, you want to be writing your book, not anybody else's. Like,
Exactly.
as a creator, we really want to just do our own thing.
Yeah.
And unless you're a plagiarist, I can't account.
Which is
Um,
really weird though, when you say that. And I've spoken to the authors even recently as a few days ago when, they've spoken about their editors about the next book they want to be writing. And their editors turned around and said, okay, well, what about writing this book in this genre? And I'm just using romanticy as issue as an example because it's there. And they've said, but I don't want to write that. Like
yeah,
I want to write this.
this is the darker side of publishing, which we
Yeah.
all know happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, as authors, we have to resist it. We really have to
You
say
have to fight back.
no thanks, and
Well,
insist on our authenticity, because your greatest gift is yourself, your
yeah.
individuality. All the things that people didn't like in me, that people discriminated against me for, those are the things that give me strength, that give me my particular brand that goes into my works, that resonates with people. So you have to insist on who you truly are.
Has any of those people who were awful to you in the beginning, have they been back in your not in your circle, but have you seen them?
No,
And
I
have they commented on your
no,
success?
I haven't. But uh, let me put it this way: years ago, several years ago, in the wake of Me Too, American
Mm,
publishing experienced a shakeup,
yeah.
and at my former employer, Alfred A. Knopf, especially, there was a massive changeover of senior editorial positions, and they were bought out. They were forced into retirement. All I will say is that people who abused me the most are no longer there.
I am a strong believer in karma. I strongly believe you don't get it back in the same way that you gave it, but you will get it back
Mm.
in
Also,
some way.
we don't know how it will all work, but in the grand scheme of things, if you have always insisted on doing the right thing,
Yeah.
then you will get your just due, and whoever did not do the right thing will get their just due. So you just leave it to the universe to sort that out.
Exactly. Leave it. It's just what I this is and I don't know why it's been such a strong thing I've been saying the last few months to like writer friends of mine. It's like you just have to just let everyone else just do their thing,
Yeah,
and you just focus on what you need to do. Like, don't get distracted by the latest news in the bookseller who's got the latest crazy, significant six-figure deal and who's sold, I don't know, if you want to use Richard Osman, 145,000 copies of their book in the first week. Just leave them to it and just use your
Absolutely.
energy on
Your
you.
blinders on and
Yeah, you
focus
have to.
on creating the best work you can possibly write.
Mm,
So Nadine, to that point, I am really focused on creating books that will stand the time for the next 30 years.
yeah.
The reason being, if it continues to be loved and read for 30 years, I think that's the threshold for books that stand the test of time forever.
Mm,
But a lot of books do not stand the test of 30 years because if you go back to 1995, which was 30 years ago,
oh, don't say that. That's when I started uni. Oh,
so I'm
honestly,
sorry,
it's like a stab
forget,
to the
forget,
heart.
forget that I said that. But if you think about 1995, the books that were
Yeah.
winning the Booker or the National Book Award or Pulitzer or being on the bestseller list for many weeks in 1995, 94, 96, a lot of them people don't know who the authors are, people who don't know what the books are now.
I'm
So
struggling. Yeah.
so this is actually true of books that were important and very acclaimed 15, 20 years ago. It doesn't even
Mm,
have to stretch that far to 30 years. Um, and uh, I think that what I really want is to create something really lasting,
yeah.
a future classic. What is the strongest indicator for the future classic that is loved 100 years after its publication? It's not going on the bestseller list in its first year. It's not being given a lot of awards as a front list title. Do you know what it is? Because I
No, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for you to
so
tell me.
so the strongest indicator for a book that lasts the test of time is whether it is accepted by the academics, by critics and academics, whether they continue to study the works, write papers on it, assign them to their students, and so on.
I suppose
So,
it's a reason why Lord of the Flies, when I think about it, William Goldwyn's Lord of the Flies consistently is the text that
mm,
15, I'll say in this country, definitely 14 to 15-year-olds are being assigned to read in English class.
in America as well.
Yeah.
So, there are books that are not huge hits in its first year of publication, but if it has strong enough quality, then it can gain recognition from a subset of very intense and sophisticated readers. These would be academics and critics in this
Hmm.
case, who continue to extol its virtues, write about it, assign it, and so on, and it will eventually rise to the top. So this is similar in Hollywood as well as in publishing. There is in Hollywood there's a saying that the cream rises to the top, meaning
Yeah.
there's so many screenplays and different projects, but like that you think there's no way the good things just get discovered, and they're saying, well,
There's a way.
the system works because eventually quality will be recognized, and I
Yeah.
think publishing in some on some level has a similar sort of thing. Now, are there exceptions to the rule? Yes, I think so. I think that there are great books that are not widely acclaimed and forever remembered. I think that there are pretty bad books that are remembered and well read. But, I think there's sort of a general sense that your quality will determine its ultimate fate, and don't be
Yeah.
focused on the first year.
Yeah. I think that's good advice. So, Juha, I'm going to ask you about your new book, A Love Story from the End of the World. Would you like to tell the listeners of the conversation about A Love Story from the End of the World?
A Love Story from the End of the World is an ecological short story collection taking place from the South Pacific to futuristic Seoul to the south of France and the deserts of American West. It traverses time and place to examine humanity's relationship with nature.
Hmm. Okay, so I have two questions I always ask. authors about their books. Did you have any challenges when writing this book? Especially a collection. I always say I find short stories hard, which is why I say I challenge myself. I force myself to do them
Oh,
to get used
absolutely.
to them. Yeah.
I
So,
think
did
for
you face
story,
any challenges? Sorry, go on.
I think novel writing is hard for obvious reasons. Everybody thinks novels are hard, but novels are like writing a marathon, and then you come to the finish line and they say, "Good job, you finished this. Now go run another one." And then this
Yeah.
happens like 5 or 6 times. That's what novel writing feels like. Short stories are like a Formula One race. So it's just as hard, but for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
You have to be extremely skilled in all the turns. You have to make these sharp hairpin turns without crashing and burning. And if you make a simple mistake, you will not only come in second or third, it just won't work.
Mhm.
So it's a winner take all situation. Um, and I enjoy that challenge. I think it's extremely thrilling. I wrote this collection from 2015 to 2024, 10
Yeah.
years, 10 short stories.
Wow.
So the exact process that went into this book is not the same as for my novels. But it was so rewarding to me because these individual stories, some of them, I can say from an objective perspective, as the writer of all of my works, some of these stories represent some of my best writing. So I have one particular favorite short story that is like one of my top favorites. I actually would say like about two or three stories, about 3 or 4 stories here. I look back and I think that's incredible that I was able to write that. I don't know where that came from, but it was really incredible experience.
Isn't it? I'm always fascinated by, there are days when I say the struggle is real and you're at that computer and you're just like, this is not, I don't know why I chose this. This is not working. And then there are other days when you just write and you're done and you're like, well, I hit my word count. I exceeded my word count. This chapter actually makes sense. And then I'm looking at it and there are moments like I don't remember writing it.
Mm,
And you're like, where did it even come from? And where did I go
yeah,
in that moment when
but
I was writing it?
in a positive way, right, Nadine?
Yeah,
Like,
in a positive
where
way,
did
in a
this
good way.
flow? Where did this
Yeah,
flow?
where did the flow come from? The
Yeah.
hum, as Shonda Rhimes calls it.
What does she call it?
The hum,
The
which I
hum.
like. You're in the hum and everything's just you're just humming along
So
in
I
that flow.
really trust the hum or the flow, or
Yeah.
I call it the muses because I think how the Greek poets said, "Sing, O muse, of the wrath of Achilles," or whatever.
Mm,
How they really thought that this inspiration was coming from the ether, from somewhere outside of them, from divinity even. I
yeah.
really relate to that because it doesn't feel limited by my own human weaknesses. Like I'm only a human being. Like I don't really have a particular confidence that I can write an amazing thing. But like sometimes what I write is better than what I'm humanly capable of. And how did I write that? Exactly as you described.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Well, I always feel that I always have those moments when I'm doing my edits. So I get my editing notes back from my editor, and I'm going through the manuscript, and I'm like, I don't remember writing this.
Yeah,
Like I really don't, but I obviously did.
yeah. And I think
So,
that that's just
mm,
beautiful. I mean, you may be able to, neuroscientists may be able to like plug some things into our brains and see what is actually going on when
yeah,
we're in this beautiful
that
inspiration.
would be fascinating to see. Maybe the Apple Watch can find a way to work that out.
I think the science-based people would find that really fascinating and try to harness that for,
Mm,
in some way. For me, the mystical person that I am, I like to just have this mystery about our process and
yeah,
feel as though this is a gift and I don't need to fully understand it or dissect it or try to figure out a capsule that, optimizes your brain. My husband is a tech guy, so he's constantly trying to optimize everything and you know how that goes. Like I don't want that. I want beauty. Like I want mystery. And I
yeah.
think the process is partly what makes the creation of art so beautiful.
I like having that mystical, that moment, those moments. You're like, ah, well, that was good. I mean, it's much better than the other. I don't know what to do today. It's not working. Did you hear? Before I go on to your last set of questions, I always ask authors which one of their characters would they like to spend the afternoon with. So, thinking of your favorite story in your collection, which
Mm.
one of your characters would you like to spend the afternoon with?
So I would actually go back to the previous novel, City of
Okay.
Nightmares, and spend an afternoon with its protagonist, Natasha. And Natasha is this incredibly passionate and gifted Russian ballerina. And I mentioned earlier that dance has been a through line in my life.
Yeah.
And Natasha is such a fascinating character, and um, she has a lot of shadow and light. You know that famous line from Anna Karenina where Stefan says, "All the beauty in the world is can be found in the shadow and light,"
Hmm.
and that kind of uh, coexistence of different facets is what makes Natasha so special. So I would love to um, dance with her, watch her dance,
Oh, I like
um,
that.
maybe like walk around, go to the museums with her, and talk about
Yeah.
art.
I'd like to dance with her. I like that. Okay, Juhea, your final questions. Are you an introvert or extrovert or a hybrid of the two?
Definitely introvert. I am really good at public speaking, and I do a lot of tours, and everybody is surprised by how good I am at interacting with people.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the last recent ones in Sweden, I went to Gothenburg Book Fair, and a diplomat complimented me on my poise and eloquence, and I'm like, well, you probably get media training, and I don't.
You know.
Um, but despite the fact that I thrive in large group settings, I actually am happiest alone or with a
Mm,
small group of people. Meaning, like, I thrive on one-on-one interactions. I love
yeah.
that with my friends. Just getting to deeply like converse with them is so much better for me than going to a large party and having shallow interactions. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely depth over quantity. And
Yeah.
again, I mean, like, I love nothing but better than staying home and spending time with my family.
Do you think you were able, I don't know if this even makes sense, but were you when you moved a lot because you moved to Paris and then you're in London. Do you feel you was able to do that easily because you're an introvert? Because you're not concerned about the wider noise?
Hmm. Moving around is easier because I'm an introvert?
Yeah.
No, I would say absolutely not because I actually, Nadine, to be completely honest, I really struggle with a feeling of loneliness, and
Mm,
I love people. I actually love making friends. By introvert, I mean I thrive on very close interactions rather than
yeah.
wide, shallow interactions.
Mm,
But I'm seeking friends constantly, and moving as an adult to a different country was hard on me because I think people my age tend to have established friend groups.
yeah.
They don't really need to add another friend. I mean, I'm desperate for socialization, so I'm always reaching out, and I don't find that that's necessarily other people's priority in their lives. So it's been tough, but that's okay.
You made it through. Okay, so what challenge or experience in your life shaped you the most? And always say it could be good or bad. It doesn't need to be the worst thing that ever happened to you.
What challenge shaped me the most?
Or
Oh,
experience.
what experience?
Mm,
Ooh, there's just so many. But you know what? If I already spoke a lot about negative experiences that
yeah.
I turned into something positive. If I am to talk about something positive that remained positive, I would say my exposure to the arts. So, I started learning classical music at age 9. I started playing the cello, and at the same time, I started learning ballet. I was always exposed to great literature growing up, and in university, I studied art history. So throughout my life, I've had this great passion and exposure to arts of all different disciplines, and that has informed who I am as a human being.
Yeah.
It's informed how I create, how I think about my writing, and yeah, I would say that that explains a lot of who I am as a person.
Okay, so if you could go back to when you were 25 years old and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think I would say everything will work out. Just keep
Yeah.
going. But at the same time, since it's advice or sort of a warning signal from the future, say don't be so naive. I would say
Mm,
it's okay to be trusting, but be aware of the fact that uh, other people represent their own interests and not your own. So, this could be, you might think that um, the business people at your publisher have your best interests at heart, or they will be doing things all absolutely correctly. They might be well intentioned, but it could be A, they're just making human mistakes, or B, it also arises from the fact that their interests are not wholly aligned with your interests yet.
yeah.
So I would say be savvier, be more careful, be more resourceful, ask questions, and just keep going.
And what is your non-writing tip for writers? So I say it could be drink water, touch grass.
I'll touch grass. Because I get the question asked about research a lot. Everybody
Yeah.
asks, "How did you do your research?" And I just kept telling them, just the normal way that everyone does research, until I realized they're asking me this question because they want to know, if I do research well, will I write books as well as you do? And then I'm thinking the answer is no,
Yeah.
because research is not the most pertinent thing. It is way more important for you to observe. Go outside without your phone and spend some time observing little creatures. Like, look at the snails, look at the bees, smell the flowers, listen to the birds, and look at which bird is sitting on which tree because they eat which fruit. That supplies all of the wisdom that you need, because if you just pay attention, you realize even the tiniest creatures, a blade of grass, it's carrying on its life in this universe through its own laws and logic. And once you are able to connect those dots together, then you're able to see what makes up the universe with compassion, with empathy. And that is much more important than research. So yes, absolutely. I agree with you, Nadine, that it is to touch grass.
Yeah. I like that. I've been thinking it for the last few minutes. I'm like, listening to you is like listening to a really good TED talk.
That's sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome. And finally, Juhei, where can listeners of the conversation find you online?
Go to juhekim.com for my latest events and other news, and follow me on Instagram at juhe_writes.
Oh, and that just leaves me to say, even though I don't really want to say it because I've enjoyed talking to you so much. But Juhei Kim, thank you so much for being part of the conversation.
Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you so much for watching the Conversation podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you'd like to catch up on more conversations, you'll find them linked on your screen now. And you can also listen to the podcast on your favourite platform. See you there. Bye.